Hey VC, Steve here, FlipSideCT. My last video, I showed some New York City Academy Record Store on 12th Street finds, a little walk in Central Park, some flea market finds. So if you haven't seen that, you might want to check that out. Thank you, new subscribers. I see some piling on, a lot of people who seem to be lookers and not ones that are doing videos. All is fine, but thank you for your interest. It's great. Again, this is all about the turn on and how people could really find out about some music they never heard of. I got a couple things going on that I have gotten that I'm going to have to show eventually. But so I wanted to show you a couple finds, and then I have something turn you on as far as some footage goes for one particular artist. And Amazon finds Jackson Browne, and 2014 is when this came out. This is called Standing in the Breach. The one prior was 2003, so it's been a while for Jackson. I don't know if there's any big Jackson Browne fans there, but sort of stopped with him in the early 80s. After that, I just gave up on some of his stuff. But this is typical Jackson. I'm not going to say this is great, this is wonderful. Typical Jackson Browne lyrics, the same, you know where it's going. Music is good. The album's not expensive. I bought this, for I don't know, it was less than $15, that's for sure. But it's a double album, and this was cool to get, but not overly impressed, but fun. Okay, so there's an artist who I don't really talk about. I have some of his stuff. I still need to get it. Many of you know him. He played in the 60s, played in the 70s, in the 80s, and his life came to an end, and it's from a disease. So the person that I'm talking about is Ronnie Lane, and not many people really look at Ronnie as a contributor to rock and roll. Some of you do, I know, but some people don't. Some people never heard of him. Some people just don't know some of these bands that he played with, which are top notch. And he had a really interesting life, just a roller coaster. He didn't have all the luck, he didn't make all the right decisions, but it seems like he had, some fun times, and then towards the end, some bad times. MS, multiple sclerosis, is what he got. His mother had it, and he eventually did get it. So I have a short compressed version of a BBC clip that I found, which is at the below here. You could watch the whole thing. It gives you a really cool insight of Ronnie and just his life. But I just sort of took key pieces just to give you a condensed version to see just how cool the guy was, the respect he got from others. He was playing cards with the big boys, and he met some women in his life that really took him to a different path, and it's very interesting. So I put a condensed version together, and that's what you'll see coming up. But the album I got from Amazon is Ronnie Lane and Steve Marriott. This is an album called Magic Midgets, MAJIK-MIJITS. I think this came out in 2014, maybe a little earlier with CD. Kenny Jones owned it. Kenny Jones owned the masters and finally released it from 1980. Steve Marriott was just finishing up with Humble Pies, and they did Small Face reunions. A lot of stuff was just going on. They got together and they put this out. The record company wanted them to tour. Ronnie couldn't because of his health. So this thing was just pushed aside and stashed until recently it came out. 6 songs on each side, 6 from Ronnie, 6 from Steve Marriott. Whimsical, fun. I'm not going to say this is mind-blowing album. It's a must-have for any of these guys. For you, if you're a collector, you enjoy it. I just appreciate and enjoy Ronnie's music tremendously. Got a few more to get. In the album is orange vinyl. So in the clip that I show, they talk about Rough Mix, which is an album with Pete Townsend and Ronnie, 1977. This is sort of period when he started finding out he had MS. And this is an album they talk about. Highly recommend, the VC to get this one. I would say to get all of them for Ronnie, but check that one out. They talk about it. So I just hope you enjoy this little footage that I extracted, put together, just to give you an idea so you can get a little insight of Ronnie Lane. Enjoy this, some good moments of rock and roll in here. Cool. I'll talk to you soon. Next week, I'm actually taking a mini vacation with my son, and I don't know where I'm going to be. I'll try to get a video in. We're actually going to Gettysburg, taking a tour there and seeing family in D.C., and then probably Camden Yards or Baltimore Oriole game just to see the field there. So having fun. I hope maybe I'll go to a record store. I don't know. My poor son. I'll go easy on him. We'll see. We'll see what happens if I hit something. Poor guy. All right. Thank you, VC. Bye-bye.
Nobody wanted to play the bass. The bass was not an attractive instrument, actually.
It's obviously an ego trip, there had to be the lead guitarist or the singer or the drummer. I thought, I'll play the bass guitar. So I took my dad into it and we went down to buy this Harmony bass. I'd seen it for £45.
We went in the shop and this guy came up and said, "Hello, sir, what can I do for you?" And it was Steve Marriott,
So we invited him to the gig that evening. He gets up, brings the house down, because Steve's voice was just stunning. And he just started to play the piano. Then he jumped on it, and then all standing on top of it, the whole pub was going wild. He jumped on the keys and stuff, and all the keys broke, the piano broke. We got thrown out of the pub. The band never talked to us again, and we were sitting on my drum kit, and the three of us just looked at each other and burst out laughing. And that is the birth of the Small Faces.
I mean, none of us could play. I just started to play the bass and Stevie just started to play the guitar. But that's all right. If we was keen.
Brian Epstein came round with Graham Edge and from the Moody Blues and a mate of theirs who cut open an orange and it was spiked with acid. And we didn't know, and he just passed the orange around. We thought, hello.
Funny party, ain't it? And so I thought, well, I had a bit of orange and I took a piece. Well, we all decided that we'd like to be taken a little more seriously around about 1969.
Do you remember all the super groups, all the heavy boys? Steve Marriott decided that he wanted to be taken seriously like that. And so he went off with Pete Frampton to form his own super group and left me, Mac and Kenny in the lurch.
And then Ronnie Lane brought down his new neighbour, which was Ronnie Wood. Ronnie Wood brought down his mate, which was Rod Stewart.
And I remember this commotion going on in the next dressing room. It sounded like a fight had started. And it was the Faces had arrived,
I've never seen boys go at it like Ronnie and the two Ronnies, you know. I mean, it was like they knew how to party all the time.
I know your name is Rita, 'cause your perfume smelling sweet since when I stay with me.
During that period, Kenny bought a big home in Kingston, a Rolls Royce. Mac bought a big house in Roehampton. Rod bought a big mansion in Windsor and had a Lamborghini. Ronnie Lane stayed in his £7-a-week flat in East Twickenham and bought a Land Rover to tow his mobile. He sunk all of his money into his mobile studio during that period of 71, 72. The others were living the life and they were believing the game, and I think Ronnie saw through it and didn't particularly like it that much.
Ronnie was alive again, absolutely alive again.
And you know, Ronnie's nickname up to that point was Three-Piece, because he always wore these special suits, like an East Ender who had made it, you know, that's what it was. And suddenly he comes in the room and he's got Kate in tow who's got a baby in a basket, you know. Who carries a baby in a wicker basket? It's like, God. And she's got all these baubles and bangles and shit on her, and Ronnie's got torn Levi's and a scarf and shit on his arm, and hair's all mussed up, and he's got earrings. Everybody's going, what the fuck happened to Ronnie?
I remember the first time I saw him in his new outfit, which I thought was hysterical, and it was as a result of meeting this woman and becoming completely transfixed by her, really.
Can you show me a dream? Can you show me one that's better than mine?
And he turned up as a gypsy, and that was it. And he wanted to go on the road with caravans and do circus things, and it was a great idea, actually.
He said, you know, when Ronnie left the band, the spirit of the Faces left. And it's very true.
He was starting, just on the verge of starting to make money properly, because the Small Faces, of course, didn't make a penny. And if he'd have stayed in the Faces and stayed in the background writing the songs, of course, the publishing alone would have set him up in rock star glory. And, of course, from that moment on, he never made a brass farthing.
That's the end of that. We all make mistakes, and we're sorry, all over nothing at all. What?
In a pretty bad emotional way. He was very upset and he was concerned because he didn't have any money. So I said, look, it's really simple. I'm free on Thursday. We'll book a studio and we'll go in and we'll make a single. And that will get you going.
It was loose, and yet he was very clear how it should be done. As far as I remember, it was 1 or 2 takes, you know, as it should be. You know. Everybody knew we'd caught something special.
He was homeless, I think, at the time. And they lived like gypsies down the bottom. He used to cook in the open air.
Everybody's interested in what's Ronnie Lane doing here, you know. Yeah. He's walked out of the industry, but he's doing something interesting. It may not be commercial in the sense that the other stuff was.
Not in terms of big record numbers,
no.
Huge advances and all that sort
That's
of stuff.
Right.
Wasn't.
But people realised it was significant, and if you look at how it influenced other groups afterwards, you can see that musically everybody was watching him.
I don't know, 8 reels of 2-inch tape or something, and that was it. And I think he made 2 or 3 albums on the same reels of tape. He never put leader in at the end of a master or anything, so he could reuse the reel. So once they'd mixed it, he just erased the masters of the previous album and start again on the same reels of tape. I just think that's priceless.
But it wasn't very real, you know. I mean, Ronnie wasn't really a farmer, but we were sort of playing the part. Nevertheless, it cultivated a lot of really strong stuff. I mean, I wrote Wonderful Tonight around a campfire down there with Ronnie.
And I see Katie pretending to be a farmer's wife, boiling Ronnie's clothes, you know, in a bucket on the stove, satin suits and shit, ruining all of his suits, because that's the way she thought farmers did it.
I said, I'll make this album, but I insist that Glyn Johns produces it.
I thought it was great. I thought it was a great idea. But my concern, which I voiced at the time was that they were doing it for the wrong reason, perhaps.
Glenn is such a craftsman, and he knows how to handle those two entities. I mean, such egos he has to deal with. And Rough Mix is a perfect name because they couldn't be any different, those two.
I've always wanted to work with Pete, but never really been able to figure out how to manage it. And it was Ronnie that got between the two of us and really brought us together. So, I mean, in a way, Ronnie has been an incredible catalyst, and that's what it was with Rough Mix, you know.
I think it was a great record. It was one of the best records I ever made, I think.
I remember the first time that I could see that he was ill was on the Rough Mix session, and I'd done something awful to my wife, and he had a go at me. And I hit him, and he went flying through the air, like, you know, like in an animation film. And I thought, I know he's small and I know he's frail, but this is a bit strange. And I realised that what I'd done is I'd caught him right at a moment when he was having one of the days when he was starting to get this MS. He couldn't balance, he couldn't stand up. And I just thought he was drunk, but in actual fact he wasn't.
And I saw him play a few times where he wasn't actually hitting the strings. He's doing up and down strokes with the pick, but it was sort of just hovering about, and I thought, what's going on here?
He was getting very introspective, and he was struggling to get into a van. Standing holding the van going like that. He can't get up, and he gets in, and he finally sits down, and he says to me, "Is my disease showing?" And for a second I thought, like he's winding me up.
From there on I thought, well, it's not going to get me like it got my mother, because my mother got very negative, bless her. And now I know why she got so negative, because it's a very negative disease.
It's nice to see rock and roll doing something so necessary, so necessary. That's what it is. It's necessary. You see, MS doesn't kill you, but it will cripple you for the rest of your life. That makes it easier for people to sort of look the other way, because it doesn't kill you.
In Colorado, when we had the false alarm that he was going to die, you know, and he looked great, and it was great to see him. We had a lovely time there for a little while, and then he died a month later. God bless him. But he's with us still, you know. You know that.